This is episode 247 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. There are a lot of people out there talking about the infinite banking strategy and whether or not it makes sense for them. To find out what it's all about and if it's a fit for you, visit controlandcompound.com/Andrew Hines, where my audience can gain exclusive access to books, podcasts, and webinars tailor-made for real estate investors. Welcome to episode 247. Today I have Tom and Khush Harper on the show, and these two are a power couple that's only been investing in real estate since 2020, and yet somehow they're doing monstrous developments in New Brunswick, Canada, and it was really interesting to talk to them. The two of them went through the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within conference, and looks like they just came out of it with a ton of fire. They're super dedicated. They invest a monstrous amount of time into their business, and they've managed to quit their jobs and make this their full-time thing. And they're on a mission to turn their business into something that they simply own rather than something they work in. And of course, they'll have oversight, but they're basically doing what a lot of really impressive entrepreneurs aim to do. And it was a great conversation. We dug into the numbers and the valuations of what they're looking to do. They've bought some parcels of land and they've set up GP-LP structures. They're presently in the process of creating a mutual fund trust. And if you don't know what that stuff means, no problem. Just tune into the episode and you'll get a picture. But basically, it's a way that they can structure to raise funds from other investors. When you get into deals as big as the ones they're doing, we're talking construction mortgages in the ballpark of $80 million. Finding lenders for that kind of thing can become an interesting prospect, especially in a province like New Brunswick. It's not Ontario. You don't have all of the same deep-pocketed people that are in Ontario and willing to lend in Ontario necessarily willing to lend in New Brunswick. So one of its own challenges, but a very, very impressive track that they are on. And I'm looking forward to watching their progress from here. Just before we jump into the episode, I'm going to remind you of a couple of things. One, we do host the GTA West REI meetup monthly. Make sure you're in our Facebook group so that we can meet you there. It's an entirely free social event where you can just come meet other investors, learn what they're up to, and hopefully make some connections that help you in the future. Many of the investors I know today came from the meetups that I first hosted back in 2019. And I'm really grateful that that allowed me to create the network that I have today. So highly recommend you become a part of it. Remember, real estate's not really sexy anymore. So the people who come out to these events are very serious, and there's less tire kickers. There's a lot more just focused, serious people. And I find it really valuable. I enjoy it every time. So I'd recommend you come. The other thing is, now that real estate's less sexy, I need your help more than ever to help continue growing this podcast. So if you could please send this to a friend you think it'd be helpful. If there's a guest or a specific episode that speaks to you, share it with somebody that you think it would speak to as well. And of course, hit all those buttons and do all the things that get it out there on YouTube and on the other audio platforms as well. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the episode. Please enjoy episode 247. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I've got Tom and Khush Harper on the show. They came out to the GTA West REI meetup. Great place to meet fellow investors. And they convinced me that I wanted to have them on the show. And I don't remember why, but they're going to tell me. So first off, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us too. Yeah, so we met you on the meetup. And that was the first time for us to be there, and we were really excited to see you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it was great meeting you. And I remember thinking that you're both pretty determined entrepreneurs. It seemed like you were pretty aggressive in your real estate approach. And I feel like there was an out east element. Am I right with that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm remembering correctly.
It's all coming back. Yeah. Most of our entire portfolio currently is in New Brunswick.
Okay.
We have plans for other areas as well, but really Atlantic Canada is where we saw the value.
Okay. Give me the bigger picture, like what got you into real estate investing and when that happened.
Yeah. So we met in 2019, and obviously very rapidly started getting serious, and we sort of discussed as we were progressing towards engagement and marriage that what did we want to do in our life.
Mm-hmm.
and we both had IT jobs, high stress, long hours, not very many pay raises or promotions on the horizon. Is the way that industry kind of currently is, and they were just like, people quitting and not getting replaced. So the workload was just exponentially increasing.
Really?
So we looked at like, well, this isn't very sustainable. But our initial plan was just, well, we just want to increase our wealth, maybe retire sooner, be in a better position when we retire. How can we do that? Real estate. So we were thinking to buy, either a condo or a townhouse adjacent to the townhouse that we live in. Just something to have as a second property that we would own, and someone else would pay down the mortgage, and decades down the road, and eventually get a third and a fourth, and etc. So that was our only plan initially. But then we took real estate investment training from numerous organizations, and as we learned how all the different strategies that existed and how to run the numbers for these strategies, and what kind of opportunities there were, what resonated with us was multifamily. And then we identified, the markets across Canada. At the time, St. John, New Brunswick was kind of the best cash flow, very low purchase prices and very strong cash flow kind of from day one, and quite a lot of room to force appreciation. So, then we just sort of went all in on that to, get to the point where we could leave our jobs and be full-time real estate investors.
And when did you go all in on that?
So we started in 2020 January. So that's when we were working for our jobs, and then whatever spare time was, we were taking trainings and analyzing numbers on the properties. So we just were all in from 2020 starting.
And this was like, what kind of education? Was this like rich dad education? Was this Keyspar or all the above?
All the above. So we have taken multiple out there. Some of them we just took online, some of them like free sessions they provide, and based on the free sessions we were making decisions that, okay, there is this gap of knowledge here, so now we need to join this organization. So like that, we were making decisions on our learning program as well. And then we also learned that we quickly capped to our growth, right? So there is always that comfort zone, the growth zone, and to get to grow more, you need to really come out of that. And for that, we need to change our mindset. And that's where we got into Tony Robbins' mindset trainings and other his business master training. So that is where the shift happened for us to go beyond our initial comfort zone.
Okay. And what's the focus? Like, what do you think the biggest takeaway for you was from going through like the Tony Robbins coach? Like what changed in your mindset because of that?
That's that's a very difficult question. There were so many things. His trainings are very intense. So the biggest thing was like we are enough. Like for me, it was like I am enough to do the things that I want to do. Mostly it was like I always used to look for the validation, because being from the country I came from and my background, my culture, it's hard to like imagine that I can do the things that anyone can do, right? From the business perspective, to build a business. So I was always like, I need somebody to validate what I'm thinking, somebody to approve it for me, somebody to tell me like, this is the direction you need to go. But after taking that training, that confidence of that I'm enough, I have to just take that action. That was the biggest switch for me. For him, you can tell your biggest.
I mean, everything. But to narrow it down a bit, I think there's just the recognizing patterns in yourself and in others. So in yourself, recognizing, okay, maybe these are bad patterns or limiting patterns that could prevent more success or more growth. And then you're replacing, eliminating those patterns and replacing them with more successful patterns, or recognizing your basic human needs, and identifying like which ones you should be prioritizing versus which ones you are prioritizing if you want to go on a path to success and fulfillment, and not just in financial, in every way, in relationships, in health and fitness, in every single aspect of your life, not just the business side of it. And then really what we learned from the business, so we took the non-business Tony Robbins courses, but then on the business mastery, I mean, it was just mind-blowing what, like the top sales expert in the world, the top marketing expert in the world, the top business finance expert in the world, and then condensing it down into kind of bite-sized chunks that we can digest and see how can we implement these strategies into our business to scale and grow and really to go. So I think the big one, sorry, it took me a minute to get to it, really was going from being a business operator to a business owner. So we went from being employees to having our own business. That was fantastic. But then to take that next step from the business is basically us to building a team under us to becoming a business owner and really managing and overseeing the business as opposed to doing the day-to-day as an operator. I think my eyes were opened to that by the Tony Robbins training, and they really give you all the tools you need to successfully do that. And then at that point, I mean, you could go from like one company to 100 companies.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually love the idea of that. Because I look at what I do that way too. And I'm like my own worst critic, like anything. I'm always looking at like, what am I doing wrong here? What could I be doing better? I mean, I'm very, very aware that my current level of results are a product of what I've been doing in the past or up to this moment. So for me, I love the idea of being able to dig in more on what it is that I'm not doing or what is that I am doing that's not steering me in the right direction, so I can eliminate those things and then add in the things that are helpful. If somebody wanted to do that type of training, like what's involved, like what are the kind of options? I don't mean to make this into like a Tony Robbins sales pitch, but I just like that type of training. I think that's so valuable.
I can answer that. So I mean, the sort of entry level Tony Robbins course is Unleash the Power Within, UPW. It's available sometimes in person, but virtually through Zoom, numerous times, probably, I don't know, 10 times a year.
So they're just like live Zoom calls or?
Yes.
For like 4 days straight.
Yeah. Okay.
16-hour days.
Holy moly.
Morning,
really?
Very intense.
Yeah, and it's not expensive. I think everyone should take advantage of at least that one training. That gives a perspective to human psychology.
Is that the business one, or is that that's just the general one?
Yeah, that's the mindset one. That's where I felt like I can do a lot more. Yes.
Even we made dietary changes, and I used to have migraines. I no longer have migraines just because of dietary changes that was just like just a 30 minutes in, like that was just like the tail end of this UPW. They have a whole course just on diet and fitness. And the whole course just on managing your finances and your wealth, and and then the business one. Now that one I think is maybe more like 10 grand, maybe 10 grand USD. That's like a week of, again, 16-hour days, but your entire team can show up with you if you do it virtually. If you go in person, you have to pay a ticket per person, but if you do it over Zoom, you could have like in your office or in your home or wherever. If you've got one employee or team member, or you've got 20, they can all kind of participate and gain from that experience.
But you're saying it's a week of 16-hour days?
Yeah.
Oh, it's five.
I think it's actually 5
days, 4 to 5 days.
5 days.
It's basically, if your business cannot sustain for those 4 to 5 days without you, that is another perspective. That's mean you need that training. Yes.
It runs through a weekend, so it's not like all weekends.
I have a nearly 2-year-old, so I don't know how I would do that.
They can join the train. Like there were so many people where their whole family, the kids were
there.
Yeah, the kids were there. It's just like on the screen for you in front of you.
Yeah, I've been missing this kind of thing. Like I used to do more of that kind of thing, a lot more personal development reading as well, and just like I got so many things going on that I don't spend as much time. I would love just a nice refresh and all that.
Yeah, well, that's what I found when even just working long hours and climbing the corporate ladder in IT, I didn't spend as much time reading. I didn't do any personal development, and I was just honing my technical skills in my tech role and growing and getting promotions and stuff. But then, like all those years that were going by, I mean, I was somewhat increasing my income, moving up, but it wasn't really getting me to where my life goals or where I really wanted to be. And I kind of didn't really, then we had an aha moment where, we decided, okay, we need to take training on real estate investing. And then further to that, Khush saw some Tony Robbins stuff. And and then we were like, okay, we should take this Tony Robbins training, and
Yeah.
it's just an eye opener. And then also like reading more from, there's so many other people who have great stories, who have written books, who can kind of almost give you the roadmap of what you need to follow to.
Yeah.
Go on
So
that path.
how do I look at the trainings? So it's like if you are playing a chess, you need to learn the chess rules. And if you so excel in checkers, you cannot implement those rules and win a chess game.
Yeah.
So it's like in the business world, if we want to really go to, are we competing with the millionaires? Are we competing with the billionaires? Which level we want to grow to? So for that, there is a different game. So every time when somebody has to upscale, it's very important either to, there are only two ways to learn. Either you learn from your mistakes or you learn by other people's mistake, which is where when we pay for the trainings, we are paying for the speed. We are learning from other people's mistakes.
Mistakes and mentors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody needs mentors, no matter
yes.
where you're at. Tony Robbins needs a mentor. Like, I mean, if he wants to keep improving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So very, very critical. Since we're on this topic, let's just indulge in it. What other resources would you recommend for followers of the podcast?
So other resources, I would say go attend all the free trainings. So all these mindset trainers, they put out challenges, which are free challenges, 2 hours a day. So attend those. There are other people who are doing real estate trainings. They're doing free boot camps. So attend those free boot
Like
camps.
the Scott McGilvery one, like you guys did the weekend, I'm assuming?
So, well,
I don't think we did
no,
that one,
I
but
don't think we did some of them.
Okay.
Like we did not all of
probably
them.
a couple years ago or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, plus when you guys were starting, that was when everything was like locking down. So it would have been mostly virtual probably, right?
yes, and
We did
virtual
so much
works.
virtual.
Yeah,
We
we did
did
all virtual actually.
Evenings and weekends, taking training,
Yeah.
just like nonstop for like in 2020 when it was lockdown.
And you have no kids, right?
Not yet.
No.
That helps.
Yeah, I mean it would be definitely different for people who have kids. Yeah.
Yeah, it's another challenge. But you see people with well, at the Multifamily Canada conference in at the NTCC, we saw, who was the woman, like she, while pregnant and having
Janet.
a child,
I think
she added 1,000 doors to her portfolio.
So she was one of the
not
speaker
working
there.
with
Yeah.
like not her husband, and
Yeah.
she's just
Yeah.
no, like her, just her.
You definitely need a lot of support system around you when
for
you
sure.
have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone has
yeah.
to be taking some of that childcare time, obviously.
Well, some people have like, like say my parents were both like in town, like they could watch my son. Well, it's just my mom now, but like she'd be able to watch my son. It'd be a little easier. Like some people have like parents that just live down the street from them. Like, oh, here are the kids. We don't have that. Like Carmen lives in town, but she's very, very busy. So she'll take them on the weekend though, the odd day, which is pretty awesome. Not that we're trying to get away from them. We love our time with them. It's just like sometimes to be productive, it's like you need a little bit of space.
For sure.
But yeah, for us, like, nannies, people coming and helping in the house, cooking, cleaning, like things like that, just help us get ahead on things. So we have time to think
Yeah.
what
Well,
you need.
And I think it's also recognizing the value of your time. People, I think, often underestimate the value of their time when they're trying to grow a business or trying to achieve certain things in life. So like paying for cleaning, paying for meals, paying for just offloading that time from yourself so that you now have that time available to invest in growing your business. It really makes all the difference, and I think a lot of people can't get past that, and they're just used to
Yeah, even for us, even though we don't have kids, but we had to like really scrunch our time, expand our time actually, right? So what we started doing is meal prepping over the weekend and put it in the freezer, so that reduces cooking time every day. And then for cleaning, we started hiring somebody to clean for us, so that saves our time too.
So helpful.
So this is like that one switch we have to first make
That's
in
a
our head, and
mindset.
then
because time
in our life.
is the most critical or scarce resource that we have. It's finite, so every extra minute of time that you free up could lead to something else,
Right. As long as you're choosing to use that productively.
Yes.
That's the big thing. But I couldn't agree more. And I like to think of it as, what would somebody doing this job, if it wasn't me, get paid to do this job? And if it's like 15 or $20 an hour, why am I doing this? When I know that the highest paid jobs I could do, deal making, coaching, things like that, pay exponentially more than that. So it makes sense to hire out those jobs, with the small caveat that, of course, you need to trust people, especially like with my son. And then there's like other things that I like to do, like I like tinkering in the garage and stuff. But if I have something I need done on a deadline, it's like, okay, I'm going to hire somebody. Like I like doing it if it's just at my own pace, but if I need it done, then somebody else do it.
Yeah, and in real estate, when you're putting an offer in, like the closing of the property, it's like there is a deadline there, right? So you have to rush and do so many things there, and
things can come up like an inspection or renegotiating or due diligence.
You need to be able to react or respond to stuff in short notice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So are your evenings right now just packed with real estate acquisition?
Since 2020, all our evenings, all our Saturdays, Sundays, weekends, all our holidays, everything is packed with our work all the time. And we have skipped so many family events, so many friends events, so many like parties. Like we don't go to parties. Like we try to intentionally skip that too, because we can use that time in something else. So how we look at it is like when you have a baby, right? For first 3 years, your baby is too dependent on you. So for us, a business is also like for first couple of 2-3 years, it is too dependent on us, and we want to take it to the level of being a toddler where it can walk on its own. So that's to take it to there. So we had to like implement so much of our time and become a business operator. So that is where that relationship comes in, to become an operator, from operator to owner.
You want to go to an owner.
Or to an owner.
Sorry, I think one of the sort of caveats that I recognized very early on is you need a certain amount of scale and a certain amount of momentum. You can't just decide I would like this business model, but if you don't get, let's say, enough deals, enough, let's say, cash flow or wealth increase or revenue, then it's not feasible. Like we can't hire full-time employees until there's enough money left over after everything else to pay full-time employees. So it's kind of it's a sort of a chicken or the egg. So like you have to. So we consciously were like, okay, we need to build momentum. We need to build up a reputation in the market. We need to scale to the point where we can first leave our office jobs. Then now next step, scale to the point where we can grow that team under us and become business owners. Because even if we take all the training and we know how to be a business owner, the business has to grow to a scale that can justify having that team of people employed.
Hi friends, I just wanted to take a moment away from the episode to tell you about my brand new structured coaching program. This is the first time I've ever offered a structured coaching program where we'll have regular meetings in addition to an intro call to go through what your goals are and help you get on a plan to achieve those goals within real estate. So if you've followed me for some time and you feel that I would be a fit for you to help you achieve your goals in real estate based on my skill set, based on the topics we cover on this show, I encourage you to head over to my website, andrew-hines.com/coaching, and fill out the questionnaire so that we can schedule a call and figure out if it's a fit for us to work together. Let's face it, most people could benefit from a second set of eyes and ears going over their strategies, different deals that they're looking at, and helping to springboard ideas back and forth. This is a program that's exactly for that. So if you're looking to build confidence in what you're doing in real estate investing and get very clear on what it is you're trying to accomplish, this might just be the program for you. Take a moment, fill out that questionnaire, and let's schedule a chat. I've heard this put other ways. Not everybody would agree with that, but I think it's important to do it the way that you feel comfortable with. Some people feel like you need to hire the people you need before you can afford it. And I've heard that expressly said like that. Have you heard it said like that?
I have heard that. I mean, I think it's also a matter of your comfort level. We've also heard people leaving their jobs to dive all in when they don't have anywhere near the income coming from the business that they like.
I definitely don't recommend that.
No. So we were like, okay, that would be great to free up our time, but no, we can't do that until we...
You can do that if you don't have kids to take care of, no family members
if you're living with family, you've got some flex, you can do all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, if you have something to fall back on. Like,
but definitely, even we don't recommend that. Like for us, it was important to have to reach a certain level of income level in our real estate business before we actually leave our jobs.
Being an entrepreneur is hard. I mean, it's hard to the self-discipline,
It is,
right?
yes.
Like you guys have incredible self-discipline to stay focused on what you're doing in the evenings, on the weekends, while you're still working full time.
Yeah, no,
No,
not
we've left our
anymore. We
jobs.
left
You're
our
not
job
doing that
last
anymore.
year.
So now you're still working around the clock.
Yes.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
What's the goal? Why?
To become business owners.
Yes.
Business owners, not business runners.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and the
that's-
key difference
yeah.
becoming is that you will just have oversight.
Yes. So many people have this like dream imagination, which is like not the reality. So once you leave the job, people think that they can leave the job and they have like few properties and then they have time freedom. So that's where they stop growing, and that's where they're always, stuck in like working on their own properties, and it's hard to really enjoy the time. So it's like once you leave the job, you have to actually work more than your job in your business and take it to the level where now you can actually enjoy that time and give that
Yeah.
quality time to your
Yeah.
friends and families. So that's where like our two goals is like become a business owner, so that we have that flexibility of time at that point rather than just now.
So
Like
you guys have
And for
held
the rest
off
of
on
our lives.
hiring your own operations management. Do you have assistants working for you?
so not until today.
You just started a VA, or
No,
an
It's
No,
just time.
so we did hire a VA, and
Okay.
we hired two types of different VAs, and we fired them.
Fired
So
them,
they
okay.
were, because our work, we need a VA we need person who is like excel in spreadsheets, in numbers, to take on to the things that we are working on. So we couldn't find somebody that well who's so good with numbers and who's so good with the spreadsheets and analyzing and learning from us in VA groups. So we decided we are not going to work with VA. Then we tried to hire a student. We got a student. He was doing really good, and then he got a full-time job. We could not pay him that
He
much.
finished his school, graduated, got a full-time job. So.
Yes. Then we find a volunteer also. So the problem with volunteers is there is not much drive to really like focus on the
Yeah.
business. We want somebody who wants to work like us, who wants to grow with us in our business. So those are the people we want to bring on board with us in our business. Our initial team has to be very, very strong
Yeah.
for handling our business the way we do.
Okay, and so you're just talking all the matters, all the systems that you have in place. You want somebody that'll take the same care and get your vision, so that they
Yes.
can execute based on your vision.
Yeah, so we need
Exactly.
somebody who has similar vision, but they don't know how to execute that.
Yeah.
So we can help them grow to
We
that
can help
vision
teach them
too.
how to
Yeah.
execute it if they have the
Yeah.
underlying skills and talent to grow into
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it doesn't. I mean, we haven't even gotten into like the numbers and how your properties perform and what that looks like. But based on the fact that you guys are able to both focus on this, it seems like the next logical step to bring somebody in who's going to kind of have a higher level of thought and can kind of be the quarterback for most daily stuff. So, are you guys managing your own properties? You have property management?
We have property manager from day one.
Okay.
That was part of our strategy.
Yeah.
And what's the portfolio look like?
So we have an assortment of existing multifamily value add properties, anywhere from a duplex to a 28 unit, 103 units, I think 19 properties. So mostly smaller with a bit larger, in St. John and Moncton, New Brunswick. And then we have our 296 unit land development deal where we've closed on the land, we've completed the fundraise, and we're just getting through the construction loan approval. Well, getting all the everything that's needed in preparation for the construction loan on that one.
So land development, this is in New Brunswick as well?
In Fredericton.
Yeah, it's in Fredericton. It is 296 rental apartment unit.
Purpose-built rental.
Yeah, purpose-built rental. So this is one project which is land is already closed. Then there is another land that we are getting the approvals from the city. That one is 200 to 400 units in St. John. So these are the two main projects we are focusing on right now. And our going forward, we are either looking at land developments, a little bit larger land developments in maritime areas like all Atlantic Canada is where we still want to focus, or if there is a portfolio takeover of larger units like multiple buildings of bigger numbers.
Okay, so high level, why out east? And I think most people know the answer, but go ahead and tell me.
Well, because number one, it was it was cheaper to buy properties there, and number two, they were still cash flowing when we started there.
Are they still now?
Oh, it depends.
Not if you're buying it today.
It's hard to find cash
Yeah.
flowing properties there from existing multifamily apartment buildings. It's
because
really
the
hard.
second you apply a 7% interest rate at a 25-year AM, there's the cash flow.
9% is where we should run the numbers, because technically we'll get 7%, but it can be up to 9% too. It depends.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, if you want to build in a little contingency buffer, because
Yes.
I mean, this government's obviously insane. So
Yeah, because we never know. It can go up, it
Yeah.
can go low.
Yeah.
You can hope
Yeah.
that the rates are going to be lowered sometime soon. The consensus seems to be they're going to hold steady for probably like a year or more. But who knows, right? Like maybe they'll even continue to raise rates if they feel that inflation is just not going away.
it's the inflation that they keep creating and
It's created
perpetuating
by yes, exactly.
by spending money in deficit.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. I just laugh at it at this point, make a joke maybe. Okay, so obvious reasons for going out east, obvious reasons for now getting into development, because I've been saying this a lot more lately. Just ran an episode on REI Hot Seat where we talked about what's working, what I see working now for real estate investors. And I see a shift towards active business real estate investors, because that's the way you'll get the cash flow. You'll create it with your value creation. And the days of passive landlording, at least on acquisition, as you're even pointing out in Eastern Canada, is no longer cash flowing. Doesn't mean it won't come back. I think it will eventually. But so now it's getting active. People doing Airbnb arbitrage, people doing development. Those are the sort of obvious ones. And then, of course, flipping, wholesaling, those type of things. They're active. So the developments, that's not a small thing to bite off. But if you're putting in the time that you're putting in, it's not surprising that that's where you've landed. How did that come about?
So our focus was to be a business owner. We don't want to be doing all the steps in developing and construction and our operations. So what we learned is it's better to partner with people who comes with those kind of experience. So we got connected by our power team member with an existing developer who has 20 years of experience and a very good hold of the market, and also have very deep, good relationships around the area with different people. So he was also looking to start up his own development company, but he needed he is good at development. Okay, so we are very good at like structuring, accounting like a business, how to overrun the whole business operations and not to get into like to be compliant with regulations, to be
You're talking about raising capital.
plus raising capital. Yes,
That compliance.
that compliance. Yes, so raising capital compliance, as well as having correct structure around it. So that is where we had a good
CRA
skill.
compliance,
Like the
tax
GPLP
advantageous.
structure.
Yes, GPLP structure, and also like to be have like proper follow regulations of CRA. We see so many people who are doing things that do not line up with CRA.
So as in their accountant wouldn't approve, like you can't do that with your structure.
Or they choose not to pay the money on the top lawyers and accountants.
Yes.
So they have an accountant who doesn't have expertise in real estate investing strategy.
Okay.
Yeah. Or they will just not choose to check those things with the accountant. So you would be surprised to know how many people operate like that without bringing on their lawyers, security lawyers, because they're expensive, right? So
Audit waiting to happen.
yeah, and if somebody wants to really scale and is thinking towards the direction of millions and billions rather than just like few single family homes, so for them it's really important to have that strong team of accountant and lawyers for you, who is like, okay, if we have a question, they should respond in a day for us.
Okay.
or the same day. We can pick a phone and ask them the things. So that kind of like team structure is very important. And that doesn't come at the moment you have a property. And if we go, now we have a bigger deal. Now we want you
So
to
you
work
started
like
with
that.
a team and then you went out and found the deal.
Yes.
That makes sense. I've heard that story before with people, who hadn't previously done big development. You don't just go out and find a deal and then find a team. You find the team first.
Yes.
Okay, so definitely makes sense. What's your structure look like? So it sounds like you brought in a partner that sort of share the general partner role with you out of this GPLP structure. And for those who don't know, that general partner, limited partner, it's a legal structure. It effectively allows everybody to file their own tax returns. So of course, you guys probably give some information to your limited partners, and then they file their taxes based on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's extremely tax advantageous for the limited partners. So if, for example, they were let's just say we had a corporation with common shares or classes of shares, and they just had their shares that they owned and they got their return. They're not able to offset all of the expenses against their taxable income that they're getting from their preferred return. Whereas with the LP, even depreciation, like on a new build,
So you can depreciate
the first
it.
9 years or so, there will be no taxable income whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because of depreciation.
And also like with the corporation, so all the partner shareholders in a corporation, they have to first pay taxes before they pay themselves dividends. While in LPGP, it's before we pay taxes, we have to pay LP investors in the LPGP
the
structure.
LPGP doesn't pay its own taxes, right?
It's just a tax flow through.
It's
Yes.
just a flow through, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
responsible for their own.
Yeah,
Correct.
but you can kind of count all expenses, including like paying out the dividends and
Yeah.
like anything that qualifies as an expense gets taken off, and only what remains is left there as income.
Right. Okay.
Which is like it's in the case of a new build, which
Yeah.
is basically zero taxable for like a number
And-
of years with the depreciation.
Yeah.
Well, especially
On top
with
of
like if you're
everything
doing development, you're years before you're actually making money.
Oh,
Just
yes.
losses. Well, you're capitalizing it probably. You're just capitalizing all those costs, and then one day they'll be weighed against your hopefully sale that will turn into a gain, or a loss, but hopefully a gain. Okay, so the people you brought in. So you brought in your strategic partner who probably had a lot of these other connections, and you're probably leaning on for these connections going forward. Why did he want you two working with him? What were you bringing to the table?
So yeah, I mean, the reason we even got connected with him at all was because we've invested so much time and energy into building strong, deep relationships with our power team members, with our partners, investors, everyone that we interact with on this journey of building our real estate business. So I think, we just show, we've taken a lot of training. We're constantly learning and growing and improving, and we're extremely persistent or even relentless getting things done, and we treat all our power team members very well. We don't yell at them even if they make a mistake. We try to coach them, to help them improve and grow their own business, like whether it's a property manager or contractor or whatever.
And also we qualified with our net worth for the mortgage on the land. So that was one advantage that we brought that he was lacking in. And also to raise funds. So we come with an experience of how to raise funds, and we were able to raise funds for this project to close it successfully. So those were the things that he was looking for somebody to come in with.
So basically, I mean, just getting connected at all was through building those relationships and making the right impression making a strong positive impression on people. And then once we met with him, then we kind of discussed, what were the goals and values. And we seem to be, very much aligned. And his strengths were, things that we would have to spend years learning if we want to be successful developers ourselves. But then his weaknesses were exactly what our strengths were, or what he was lacking to go off on his own and take on a large development, were exactly the things that we had built up experience and expertise in, and even just having that net wealth to be able to qualify.
Yeah.
So it seemed like, it's kind of the perfect marriage. And I think a major concept is, again, that we see with a lot of people is, do you want, basically, do you want something small all to yourself, or do you want a piece of a bigger pie.
Yeah, a small piece of a big pie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or versus like a big piece of a small pie.
Yeah.
I think your small piece of that big pie is probably going to be pretty good. Ballpark, what do you on a normal deal, on an average deal, expect to keep if you're doing one of these larger, multi-hundred unit developments, like as a percentage of the ownership?
So usually it depends though, but usually it's like 50-50 is where
So the general partner is going to take 50%?
sorry?
The general partner is going to take 50%?
Oh, so if you say LPGP, then it totally varies from deal to deal.
Yeah, it's just however good you can make it look, of course.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, say this current one, the first one you took on,
Yeah.
you have two general partners, right? Well, three.
Three.
Yeah.
The three of you, right?
Yes.
So we're like 50-50 with our development partner based on weighing the pros and cons of like the value added by each party, and that seemed fair and reasonable. It's the
So in other words,
simplest
you two get 25% and he gets 25%?
and he gets 50%. So
Yes.
like it's us is 50
Oh,
and then
off
him
the
is 50.
total GP.
Of
Yeah,
the
Of the
GP.
GP side.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
yes.
then the LP gets 50%, right?
No,
So- no,
so
so
in this
Not
case,
even?
the
No,
LP
no.
gets 16%
16.
because that's
Because it's that sweet of a deal?
Oh, yes,
because
it
they're
is,
getting
yeah.
a 12.5x gross equity multiplier
Yeah.
already.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
So they're getting such an immense
So-
return, and they're only bringing a
Yeah.
tiny amount of the overall capital because the CMHC and/or other alternatives we have for the construction loan are doing like 98% of the capital. So then it's small.
So did your partner have the connections with, did you need an exempt market dealer in Ontario?
So- we actually, because we are having only accredited investors in this LPGP
and
structures
just cash.
and only using like cash, so we did not use exempt market dealer.
So no offering memorandum, none of that?
Just
Okay.
just an LP agreement.
And just a credit.
Yeah. However, we are setting up our mutual fund trust, and we have an exempt market dealer. We will have an exempt market dealer in our mutual fund trust. So with that structure, we wouldn't so exempt market dealer is usually required for compliance, and we can still find accredited investors, or it will be us who will still have to find the investors.
Yeah, I mean,
know,
if we source the investors versus if we are relying on the EMD to bring in the investors, obviously they charge a higher fee for that, and they may or may not be able to bring.
Oh, they're not going to bring you any investors. I think that's a fairy tale that an EMD actually raises money. You bring them the investor, and they just tell them that you shouldn't invest, and then they invest anyway.
Very few of them, and you will not even hear their names. Who are those people? Because those people really work with very big organizations.
Oh yeah, so there are some who raise tens, hundreds, millions, billions of dollars, but you will never find out about them. They won't even answer your call. You won't know that.
Yeah, because they only
exist.
work with specific
They
people.
only work with the much larger players in the market. So maybe someday.
Yeah, that sounds great. No, and you will hear stories of them, but they're stories, and then maybe one day you get to meet one. But yeah, that's interesting. So for people not following along, this is something I'm researching too, looking into the mutual fund trust, all that stuff, because we want to grow at scale. We want to be able to, especially in our hospitality business and the things we're trying to do. So I'm going on this journey too and learning a bunch about this. How far in that process are you?
So our securities lawyer and the whole, like the accountant and all those people who have to put it together. So we are discussing those things, what should go in our mutual fund trust. So we think in next 2-3 months it should be ready. That's our
The whole structure's done, and then you need per offering you need an OM, right?
so OM
OM is optional.
Yeah, OM you need if you are targeting non-accredited investors.
So you're saying you can still go with like RSPs, TFSAs with no OM?
Correct.
Yes. That because it's which investors you're targeting, it depends on that.
Yeah.
If with
And
OM,
still not, but you will be using an EMD. It's just not based on an offering memorandum.
yes.
And for those people following, offering memorandum is a document created, costs a whole bunch of money, includes a little bit of an audit of some financials, whatever. $70,000 later, you have an offering that you can advertise and solicit to the public with. Fair enough?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, technically, only for eligible investors, which still has a minimum income requirement.
You got to be accredited. You still have to.
Eligible. So,
Eligible,
so 75K individual, 125 household. or I can't remember what the net wealth number was, but so basically much lower.
Yeah, so
requirements
they'll
than
have
accredited.
but they'll have a limit to how much they can invest. I think it's like
Yes,
60
yeah.
grand a year or something like that.
It's limited. But if you go with accredited investors, then
It's unlimited.
it's unlimited. You don't need an OM
need
for
the
that.
OM.
You can use their RSPs, or they can invest with cash, whatever
Okay.
works for them. Yeah.
And everything you guys are doing, you're going to be raising in Ontario?
No, we
Oh, no,
raise all
Canada-wide.
across Canada.
BC, Ontario, Alberta,
Okay,
Yeah.
so like just because
New
of,
Brunswick.
I mean, do you do a lot of this kind of like, how are you getting yourself out there and people finding out about you?
Social
We need to do more
media.
of these. Social
Well,
media,
social
Facebook,
media, yeah. So far,
LinkedIn.
Facebook and LinkedIn is our major source of finding people.
I'm going to have to follow you more. I just see you at the meetup and that's about it. Interesting. The deal you're doing now, like say deal A, which is what, 200 units you said? How many?
296.
296, that's the first one. What was the land cost?
So the land cost was 2.6 million. But I'll try and keep it short. There's a bit of a story behind that as well. So with everything, like it's appraised at 5.2 million, and it's only because of the connection of our developer partner,
So we got you a sweet deal.
like without that connection, we would be paying.
So you got
5.2
your
million.
first deal in the door because of that.
Yes. Yeah, because of the connection. Yeah. So when we started talking to him, we were looking at a land like a new land. So he found the land in St. John, and that land is like quite cheap, lower price than this, and that is also 200 and 400 doors, but then that's less than 500 K for us. So we were able to provide the funds for that. So that's where it started as a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And then when this deal came up, and he was like, oh, this is a deal he wants to take on, and we're like, okay, we will raise funds for it and we'll just start working on it. That's
So the big
how
difference with the first parcel of land that we got in St. John is that it hadn't had any of the approvals or rezoning done. That's why the price was much lower, because it's a question mark.
So that's a longer term.
Yeah.
So you're doing, that's your second project.
Yeah, that is
Yes,
a
that's
second
in
project.
progress,
Yeah.
and we might even have approvals by the spring or summer of 24.
So the initial consultation went well. They were agreeable. They told you what they would need and what they were thinking, but there was no approvals. Right?
Yeah, and there's a few steps, because there's a planning department, there's a council
Yeah.
approval, there's like 3 different layers that
Yeah, so he was driving around and he just saw a house with a lot of land, and he knocked the door and he asked them if they want to sell their land. So that's how
But that's how we
Nice.
originally got that
Yeah.
one, and then it's
Yeah.
gone through partially through the approvals and rezoning. We're actually just kind of like it's sitting at 200 units, but we know that there actually is room for 400 units, so we're just working with the city on that.
There's room for 400 units. And what are appraisers looking at these towns saying brand new construction units like the type you're planning to build? What are they going to be worth? How much per door?
So 10 to 15K based on where in the city it is. Like in Moncton,
No.
it's
That's the vacant land before.
yeah,
anything is
vacant
built on
land.
it.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
10 to
the vacant
15K per buildable unit.
Yes,
Buildable,
for vacant land when you
Yeah.
get the zoning and all
Once
that.
the zoning is done.
Yeah. Were you paying less than that?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did pay half of it.
We pay
Half
half
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Ontario, I'm guessing that number would be higher.
We don't know what is the
Don't- yeah,
number in
we won't even
Ontario.
talk Ontario right now.
It
Yes.
would be probably 5x or
Yeah.
10x.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's fair. No, I'm talking end value. What are they going to
Oh.
So of the 296 units, sorry, it's a simple math calculation. We hadn't run it per unit, but it's the after construction value is 125 million, and that's 296 units, plus the land itself.
296. Yeah, but the real value is just how many units you have at the end of it. I mean, yes, you could apply
that's
some
not
value
that
to that
relevant,
land, but
Yeah, there's sort of a courtyard. I mean, there's walking paths, there's all kinds of amenities.
So it's based on income approach. What would it appraise for? So the valuation
and
of
you're
the property.
figuring average rents on that when you're done is what?
Around $2,000.
$2,000 on average per
Like
unit.
the 2
across
bedrooms are 2 to 2,400, and then the 1 bedrooms are maybe like 14 to 18 or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah,
And-
because it is like luxury high-end apartment building with
That
lots
one's
of
in Fredericton,
amenities.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, in Fredericton.
Is Fredericton like the nice city? Of
Oh
New
yes,
Brunswick?
it's the
yeah.
white collar. It's got the government jobs.
Okay.
3 universities. So there's a lot more. White collar jobs there versus
Nice.
St. John's
Rents are
Beach,
higher
people.
there too.
Higher rents there.
So what's your build and carrying? Like what's the all-in number, not including the land? Do you know, like a ballpark, or even just your all-in number that you figure you'll be in at?
Oh, like the build. So it's $80 million to build.
Everything, including your land, or that's just build?
I think
that's
that's just
everything.
Yeah.
No,
it will go a
that's
little bit higher
including
than
paying out the land loan from the construction loan.
Okay. So let's just say hypothetically that's on top of your land.
Sure.
So that puts you all in around 82.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said it's going to be worth 125. Are you going to refinance it at?
No, we won't be refinancing it immediately. We'll have to, because we will be doing the takeout with CMHC.
Do you have to wait 2 years?
At least 5 years.
Now it's 5 years?
Yes.
So you're probably going to want to do a bridge with a commercial bank, though. You're probably not going to want to wait the whole time.
That option is open too. So at this point, we are assessing all the different options.
Well, we're looking to do like the CMHC takeout loans at the completion of construction, which would completely pay out the entire construction costs and the money from our investors and everything.
Well, if you did 75% financing on that new value, then you'd be at 93 million. Now I'm not running a debt coverage ratio, so I don't know where you're actually going to fall, but it looks like it's potentially feasible for you to pull all the money out. Allegedly, MLI Select and CMHC had just changed their rules yet again in like the last week or two. I don't know if that's
just tweaked a couple.
Yeah, they tweaked a couple more things, and one of them was how quickly you'd be able to pull money out of a new construction deal or a new renovation. So I haven't read that, so I can't comment with specificity. I'm just saying what I've heard. Have you heard something similar?
I don't know the details.
We've been heads down the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So there is something new that was floating around that Jake mentioned to me. So I just maybe it's nothing, but it was something to do with time limitation on when they would let you pull the money out.
They are always hard on refinance. That's one thing. So that's why when we structure our deals, we structure in a way that the funds comes out before we have to refinance for our investors.
Yeah. So because of the equity value we have in the land is included in the construction costs. Yeah. So they will pay us the equity value in the land, which just changes, those percentages. So that's where, by the time we get to the CMHC takeout loan, there isn't money for us to need to take out.
Yeah. Also, their construction, they're not just doing the build cost; they're paying you
like
the
there's
land
soft
as well.
cost, there's the land equity that you have built up,
and they're willing to go beyond your total cost.
No, not beyond.
They'll only go
No.
up to maximum.
Yeah, to maximum of total cost. Yeah, they will not pay over that.
So 100% loan to cost is their max.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm just running some rough numbers. I mean, so if you had 296 units at 2,000 on average, that's $592,000 a month when it's fully occupied. Wow, that sounds good.
Yes.
That sounds great. That's $7 million a year in revenue. I mean, it's not going to get there overnight, but when you apply the 125 million, I have to count my zeros, and figure on we would want a 30% sort of expense rate for operating expenses to be somewhere around that.
Yes.
Around there, yeah.
Equals 0.3 times. All right, so that puts you right around like a 4 cap based on that valuation. A little aggressive, but I mean, hey, if that's what the appraiser said, that's great. Now, from what a bank would be willing to give conventionally, that's the only trick there. Like, so CMHC, they're going to go 40-year AM or 50-year AM,
50.
right? 50. So you're going to be looking at 50-year AM, and like maybe we'll call it a 5% interest rate.
That's their ceiling right now. So it's in the high 3s to low 4s right now. But.
So I don't think you're getting as much loan to value as you want just based on where the rates are right now. But even if you only got you'd only need to get 65% to cover. So say you took a 65% mortgage on a 50-year AM 5%, that would leave you with $48,000 a month cash flow. That's solid. It's a good deal. Based on 30% expense ratio.
So our projected cash flow when all the buildings are completed on the CMHC plan, which is a bit slower. So we have other timelines. We could be done in less than 3 years with the venture capital. But if we go with CMHC, it would take more like 5 years.
Yeah.
By the time the last building is completed, it'd be about $1 million a year for cash flow, and then tripling within the 10 years after that.
Yeah, because
I've made
will
some
also
assumptions here.
increase.
This is quick and dirty.
I think it's even less than 30% on the expenses. Just
Sure.
because
Brand new
like
construction
very high energy
building.
efficiency
Yeah,
and-
100%. There's ways to get that down. 30% is just like a quick and dirty
sure.
number.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds really cool. Obviously, this is not a small thing. How do you guys look for deals now? Like, I guess you're still seeing deals that work from a development standpoint. It's just the going in and trying to BRRRR a building that's sitting and standing there. That's not really looking good at surface value right now.
I think we're waiting for the prices to come down. Like interest rates have gone up. Obviously, that's a negative impact on cash flow, and yet most multifamily sellers in let's say New Brunswick, for example, haven't really adjusted their prices very much. They're not willing to accept the price, selling at a lower price. But the amount of sales closing has gone down dramatically.
Yeah.
Because two things. One, educated investors just look and say, well, that's not going to work. And uneducated investors, unless they're coming in cash and parking their money, which is one strategy, but if they're needing bank financing, then to their great surprise, they will go through the bank financing and find out that they get a much lower loan to value than that they had hoped, and then perhaps not move forward at that point.
We stopped writing offers in June 2021. Since then, we have not found the properties where our numbers are working the way we want the numbers to work on the existing multifamily properties in New Brunswick.
Okay. So stopped writing offers like that, and then you were into development at that point.
Yes, we were still running the numbers. We still do run the numbers when we find a deal, but then it doesn't end up being a deal
but
for
not
us.
devoting as much time to it as we did before.
Yes, the landscape has changed. It really has. The topic matter of this podcast has changed. It's fascinating. But I like to point out the consistent things I see talking to many different guests, speaking with realtors constantly, because my brother-in-law is constantly, working on stuff. And it's just the active strategy. And you guys are doing one of those. And that can eventually be that business that you own, not run, which makes it more of a passive strategy once you get the pieces in motion.
Yeah. I think our long-term objective is to be, I guess, semi-passive. I don't think there's ever a such thing as fully passive. That's
but you'll be active for fun. You'll be active for enjoyment. Like that's the big difference. Like, I'll cut my grass if I just want some Zen time. But if I have to cut my grass, that's a problem.
Yes, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, like then we can focus on the things we really want to do instead of just working on the business. We can do other things which can still make money, but then it will be, we enjoy to do that on the other side too.
I flip guitars for fun. I just, like, if I find the guitars that are a good deal, I'll just buy them and then I'll just list them for sale. I just find that enjoyable. I play them for a little bit. It's like, not really profitable, but it's just, fun, makes a little bit of money. So anyways, just kind of pointing out, like, you can, once you've taken yourself out of the equation, you can put yourself back in selectively to what makes you happy in your job. Like, what things you do. And I say your job, I mean your business, things you want to focus your energy on. For me, like in my construction business, I like problem solving. If there's a unique situation comes up, I actually really enjoy those. Just actually, when you walked in today, I was just sorting one of those out. Not often I get to do that. So anyways, okay. So where do people find you, reach you, learn more?
So they can find us on either Facebook. If they just Google us as Tom and Khush, they will find our website, which is tomandkhush.com. And
spelled Khush.
I will let him spell it.
So TOMANDKHUSH.
Yeah.
.com is the website, and then we have a Facebook page of the same name, and then we have a Facebook group, Tom and Khush Multifamily. We have another one for just New Brunswick real estate specific, and then we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, Instagram. You're on TikTok. I don't like TikTok.
I won't put it on my phone. I think I'm on TikTok, but it's not me posting.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a social media assistant can put me on TikTok, but my phone isn't going anywhere near TikTok.
Yeah, mine's not. Yeah. We actually finally I have a social media phone for my business, which I still have like Instagram on my phone, but my social media guy who also does a podcast, he's got it now. And I think that's a great next step.
Yeah, that's definitely something we need to look forward to. So far, Khush handles pretty much all the social media stuff, but it's a lot, you know. You
guys are wearing a lot of hats. It's very busy. That works for a time. Do it the best you can for the length of time that you're willing to do it, because eventually a time will come where you're just like, no, I'm done with this.
Yeah. So now we have some like teams that we are growing into for social media. There is another team that we just talk to and probably hire them pretty soon.
Cool.
And then now we are hiring a full-time contractor who will take on most of the work that he do, because he do
like
a lot of
operations management.
Operations, and that will take off like everyday operations work away from both of us. And then we can focus on building relationships and
solving problems.
solving bigger problems.
Yeah, like I mean, if this was a multi-hour show, we would go into all that stuff, the role, your daily operations. But I like to keep it a little more focused and concise. So we'll have you back on. This was a great conversation. Really appreciate it, and I'm sure people will be following you and hitting you up for questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming over.
Yeah, we're glad to be here. We had fun, nice getting to know you, and we look forward to coming back for the next one.
All right, we'll look forward to that. Hey friends, I'm sure you've been noticing that cash flow is getting a bit tougher with these higher interest rates. This is why I've noticed a lot of investors shifting over to a more passive approach and also to optimize their overall returns. Tune into my passive real estate investing webinar that I'm hosting on November 8th, 2023 at 7 p.m., where I'll have special guests Carmen Campanero and Nick Wright talking about what private equity is, how you can invest in it, what private REITs are, and how you can even have your TFSAs and RSPs invested in real estate where it would otherwise not be possible. Space is limited to this webinar, so please take a moment now and register your attendance at www.andrew-hines.com/webinar, or go ahead and use the link in the show notes of this episode. I'll look forward to seeing you there.
Here's how infinite banking works in under 60 seconds. You have to save your money somewhere. Well, we think the best place to save it is inside a cash value life insurance policy. You save some money in there, it grows tax-free for the rest of your life. Then an opportunity or emergency comes along. Let's say a few years down the road, you can buy a business, buy a property, buy an income-producing asset. You leverage the infinite banking policy, borrow against your asset, take advantage of the opportunity. But your money still stays in the infinite banking policy. You're not borrowing your money, you're borrowing the insurance company's money. So your money's in the policy, it's in the opportunity, and it's providing a death benefit. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. You get to retirement and you have this massive cash value life insurance, leverage that tax-free, and you don't repay those loans. You sit on the beach and you spend that money tax-free every month. Doesn't show up on a tax return, and you leave your family a huge tax-free death benefit.